Well, good morning again, everybody. Chaplain Joe back at you here again. We're continuing our series on faith and patience. And I want to talk to you about a story of Joseph. And I want to talk to you about the subject of don't ever give up on the dream God gave you, but with a caveat, but make sure it's God's dream for you and not something you made up for yourself. And we're going to talk about that, why that's so important here at the end. But I want to talk to you about the story of Joseph and how Joseph was favored by his father, and therefore his father, gave him a coat of many colors. But after that, not only did God, did he make a coat of many colors, his brothers hated him for it, because he was favored of his father, and they were jealous of Joseph. So what did they do? They sold him into slavery. Well, first of all, they threw him into a pit, and then they sold him into slavery, and then he eventually went to Potiphar's house, and then Potiphar's wife accused him of rape, and then he got thrown into the prison. And then eventually, though, he had to interpret dreams for the Pharaoh, and then basically he became the prime minister of all of Egypt. Now, why is this important? Because before any of that happened, God gave him a dream, and in the dream, basically, his brothers and his father were going to bow down to him. Okay. Now, this is very important because if you continue to read and trace Joseph's life, you'll see how that dream came to pass. Because there was a famine in the land of Egypt. And what happened is even though there was a famine in the land of Egypt, the famine hit where his brothers and father were, and then his brothers had to come down, and they had basically had to bow down to him to get grain and food to bring it back to where they were. And then later on, we know that Joseph brought his family to Egypt and all that, so he reconciled back to his father because his father thought it was dead because his brothers lied on him, and he brought his father back to Egypt, and then they basically dwelled in the land of, I think it was Goshen, to the rest of their days. So his dream happened, and his dream was fulfilled exactly the way God gave it to him. Now, why is this important? Because there's many trials and tribulations Joseph went through before his dream was fulfilled. He went from the pit to Potiphar's house, to the prison, and then from prison to eventually prime minister. And there was many trials and tribulations and things that he went through before he got to the prime minister stage of his life. The same thing it may be with us saints. We might have to go through a lot of things before the dream God gave us comes to pass. But don't give up on your dream. Continue to remain faithful, and the dream will come to pass. But it only will come to pass, and here's the caveat, if it's God's dream for your life and not something you came up with. Okay? Because there's an old saying, if it's God's will, it's God's bill. Okay? So if it's God's will, it's His responsibility to bring it to pass as we remain faithful. However, if it's our dream for our life, God is not obligated to bless what we want. He only blesses what He wants to get His will accomplished. So make sure this dream you have is a God dream and not just your dream, because if it's our dream, saints, there's no guarantee God is obligated to bless that. But also have patience in this as well, because from the time Joseph had the dream until he became prime minister, years went past before it actually happened. So not only do you need a dream, but you got to have patience as well until that dream comes to pass. Until next time, God bless.